Hello, everyone. I'm Kenny Rice, and welcome to the Horse Racing Show, episode 61. We're glad you're tuned in on radio, on YouTube, on iHeart or Stitcher. We've got a great show, a very timely show for you today. Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano will join us in a few moments. It was just days ago that it was made public that he has tested positive for the coronavirus. He is resting and self-quarantined down in South Florida. He's actually staying with his mom right now. And so we'll check in with Javier in just a few moments. And then later on, Jack Knowlton will join us from Sakatoga's stable, if that sounds familiar. He had Funny Cide, one of the great stories. A bunch of high school buddies went in and bought a horse that went on to win the Derby and the Preakness. And they have right now the best horse in the country in the 3-year-old ranks, and 'Tis the Law. But what's going to be next for him? Joined, as always, by Scott Hall on lead guitar. Hi, guys. Hi there. Hi, Scott.
Hi.
Ben Chafin on bass.
Hey.
And our researcher, Mr. Thomas Kenny. Hello, Thomas.
How you doing, Kenny?
We're in different locations right now. Talk about social distancing.
It's very distant.
We're miles apart. And maybe that's for the best. Maybe you guys would rather have me out in the studio. I don't know.
Oh, no.
But anyway, but thank God we're all good and healthy. We'll talk more to Javier and find out about the coronavirus because, you know, you hear so many things. And let's face it, did any of you guys know anybody personally? And I'm not talking about somebody famous like a Tom Hanks or a basketball player that had coronavirus. Do you know anybody? I mean, I hadn't until Javier was diagnosed.
No, not yet myself.
Nope, I still
Thank
don't.
goodness, no.
Yeah.
No, that's great, and that's the scary thing immediately, and that seems to be the case with him. Is just like one day he feels great, and one day they say he has it. We'll talk more about that. Meanwhile, let's get in the Wayback Machine, Sherman and Peabody, and go back to the 2003 Kentucky Derby with Funny Cide, because try to keep it a little positive and light here, Mr. Thomas Kenny. You've been looking back on that 129th Derby, haven't you?
Yeah, May 3rd, 2003, there was just short of 150,000 people in the stands in and around Churchill Downs that day. And Funny Cide took home the win with a $2 ticket paying $27.60.
Whoa.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a great horse in that. You know what? Funny Cide wins 2 legs of the Triple Crown. He was denied the Belmont because the second place horse in that Kentucky Derby, ridden by our friend Jerry Bailey, actually finished second in the Derby, Thomas.
That's right. Empire Maker of Juddmont Farms, trained by Robert J. Frankel.
Yeah, the late Bobby Frankel came close. Didn't ever win a Derby, came close. And, of course, Barkley Tag one was Funny Cide, and maybe he has another here this year in 'Tis the Law. We'll talk with their owner, Jack Knowlton, a little later on, and then we'll talk with Javier in just a few moments. But yeah, those were the days, weren't they? It's funny to look back on some of those horses, and I forgot like some of the people that were in these races.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun to see all that, you know.
Definitely.
From 2000,
Familiar names for sure popping up. You know, Edgar Prado, the jockey, Jerry Hollendorfer, the trainer.
Yeah. Jeff Mullins was in there with Buddy Gill that year, right? He finished 6th. I remember Gary Stevens rode him. Yeah, those were the days. A nice little trip down memory lane, hopefully taking your mind off a few things. When we come back, we'll talk with Javier Castellano, how he found out he had coronavirus, how he is dealing with it now. That's only here. You'll hear this only on the Horse Racing Show. Be sure to stay tuned. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice, and happy to have with us a new sponsor, actually an old friend of mine, Terry Finley. We go back years when he only had one horse in his stable at West Point Thoroughbreds. That's the success he's had over the decades, this retired Army Ranger captain. He has won over 875 races at West Point Thoroughbreds, over $53 million in purses. They were minority owner and Derby winner, always dreaming. If you're interested in getting into the horse racing business, the best way to do it really is go through a syndication, and one that is proven. You don't have to put up a lot of money, obviously little risk, maybe a lot of reward. A fraction of the cost to own a horse entirely on your own is what West Point Thoroughbreds offers. Check them out at westpointtb.com or call them at 518-583-6638, West Point Thoroughbreds. Well, as we talked about earlier, there's not a person out there that doesn't know about coronavirus, hasn't heard about coronavirus. And up until just a few days ago, there was no one that I personally knew who had it until the Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano announced that he did. And Javier joins us now. Javi, good to catch up with you. First and foremost, how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling great, Kenny, and thank God. Right now, I don't have any symptoms, and I've been very lucky, fortunate, to go through to the tough time.
How did you know, or when did you get an indication that you might be having some of the symptoms of some of the things that first came up to you that made you aware to get a test?
That's crazy because I didn't have any symptoms at all. Just maybe a little bit sore throat, just a little bit, like anybody can have it. And unfortunately, I went to take a test. The reason we take a test because we jockeys come from out of town, and Gulfstream Park, he required to jockey out of town. They had to take a test. All 7 jockeys, we went to take a test, and I came out positive. When I came out positive, I told the lady, "Are you sure?" Because not even 24 hours, the day before, I was running for 3 miles. I feel great. I eat good. I didn't lose the appetite. Everything. I'm feeling fine, completely fine. Any symptom, no fever, no nothing. Just if the people they tell me you have the coronavirus, I say you're wrong. I didn't have anything. That's what I mean. I think I'm very lucky, fortunate to be in that level.
Wow. And to me, Javier, that's what's been the scariest thing for everyone around there. Is just like you say, you had a little bit of a sore throat. You're running 3 miles like the day before, and 24 hours later, you're diagnosed as having coronavirus, even though you showed no symptoms. I think that's probably what frightens people as much as anything about what's going on right now.
It's true, Kenny. I think the most important, the people all over the world, the country, you have to take a test because you really know. I would never have it. I wouldn't even realize it. I had the COVID-19. I would be spread for every single one, and I didn't realize I didn't have it. I think it one of the best thing. I think I give it credit to Gulfstream Park. They did the right thing to the jockeys, and they go out of town. They take a test, and that's the only reason I find out. If I wouldn't never find out what's going on with my body because I didn't have any symptoms. I didn't have anything. A little sore throat, like I say. I think the most important all over is take a test, and if you feel something a little bit, just take quarantine at least 2 weeks, and it's gonna go away. I mean, very fortunate to be that part. And don't get me wrong, it's when they give me the news, you get scary because you don't know. You feel fine now, but you don't know what's going to happen the next day or the next 2-3 days. That's the most and always scary part. You always question yourself, or what can I'm going to sleep good tonight, or what's going to happen the next week. And it worry is one of the tough challenge I faced all my life. I think it's really scary.
Talk with Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano, who announced just a few days ago that he does have the coronavirus. As he said, he showed no symptoms of it. So, Javier, when they diagnosed that you had it, and you've got to go into self-quarantine, as we know right now, unfortunately, there's no serum they can give you, no injection they can give you, no medicine they can give you to cure this. What do you do? Did they send you home? What did the doctor tell you when the test showed positive?
It's scary because you say so many questions. You hide yourself and you don't know the answer, and you ask it the first thing, what I can do now? Can you give me some prescription, some medication? No. Basically, they send it right back home, and you gotta go be there in quarantine and don't do anything. Just eat a lot of food, a lot of water, drink a lot of water, try to maintain how you be hydrated, and eat good. Eat good. That's the most important. And sit still try to sleep, try to get rest. It's like they want to treat like a regular virus and try to the first step and make sure hopefully don't continue to get worse. But the first couple of steps, you drink a lot of water and drink a lot of soup, chicken stew, everything warm, and stay rest, and that's the most important.
What's been the feeling among your family? How's Abby? How's the children? Is everybody okay there? Do they have to be tested, or how does that work now?
Well, very lucky. I'm here. My family, they are in New York. I'm here in Miami, Florida, and I'm not able to go anywhere. I have to stay in quarantine in the house, and I'm living with my mom here. That's another challenge I have to gotta go through, and thank God everything worked out so far. And I have quarantine in my room and try to not to go close to my mom. My mom, she's 64, and she don't let me. I told her I need to go different place to stay by myself, but she will never let me go. She, like mother, he loved the kids and he loved the son.
Oh yeah.
He don't want me. He stay here. I'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. I stay in my room. You stay in your room, like you always, And we have a lot of social distance, basically. And everything worked out great. My mom, she feels so good. She's strong. I'm so proud. And everything is good. My family in New York, they're good. They don't have any symptoms at all. And my wife, she feels good. My 3 kids, they're really good. Thank God. I mean, basically, I've been very lucky in general because all people around me, and they're all good, really good, thank God.
Oh, that's great. What was it like? Because as soon as someone hears this, and I tell you, when I saw the tweet that was put up by your agent and then taken down, I thought, oh, good, it's a mistake. I hope that was just some error that was put up there. And then you come back and acknowledge that you had tested positive for coronavirus. It gives us all people that, like I've known you for years, and, you've always been a great guy to just hang around. What was it like as far as getting feedback from other jockeys and your friends when they hear this? I imagine there's compassion that's mixed in with fear when you hear this from somebody you really are close to.
I have a great feedback. All the jockeys, they've been calling me and trainers and owners. Have a lot of support. I feel good in that way. And a lot of people reach out to me and praise and give me a lot of good talk. And basically they say, stay strong, keep going. And a lot of support. A lot of jockeys, they call me. Actually, the first 6 jockeys, we went together, the group of 7, they watching shot because, Javier, you look great, you look fine, you look normal. Everybody, oh my God, I couldn't believe you have it. And we all 6, 7, we went together, and the first shock it was when everybody find out I have the COVID-19. I told the news because we have a group test, and the next day, every single one, they had the result, they call. And they said negative. And they posted all 7 jockeys in the group. And no, thank God, come out negative. What else? Who's next? I said, myself. I still waiting. Oh, Javier, hope everything okay. How you feel? I feel great. I feel good. Everything's going to be okay. And when the first thing, they called me later on, Javier, Mr. Castellano, and they give me the news, and they say, give me your day birthday. Are you sure I give my day birthday, everything, my address? Are you sure that's me? Yes, sir, that's you. Maybe you're lucky, you don't have any symptoms. Maybe you're not going to have anything, but you got to stay in quarantine. That's one of the worst news I ever heard in my life.
Oh, geez. Well, you're resting and you're feeling better, and that's the good news. And we'll be back in just one brief time out here and talk more with Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano here on the Horse Racing Show. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Glad that you're with us. Hope you and yours are safe and sound. We're talking with Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano. Just days ago, he tested positive for coronavirus as he told us, the good news is he is in Florida. He is self-quarantined. He's been eating well, lots of chicken soup, lots of fluids. And I guess you just, no pun intended here for a great jockey, Javier, but I guess now they just told you to basically ride this out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's correct. I had to stay here for 2 weeks, and then I had to go back to take the test, and they give me the clear, hopefully, and then I had to move forward after that. The good thing, I can put it behind and move forward.
Well, that's good. And I mean, I guess one of the toughest things then, because you say, the symptoms aren't there, your throat's sore anymore. Is everything okay now?
Yeah, perfect. The first couple of days, maybe I say the first 2 days, have a sore throat and they go away quick. That's what I thought. Nothing was a big deal. I thought I never have it in my mind. I could have the COVID-19 because it's only 1-2 days they throw and it just go away. And after that, I was fine. I feel good and eat good, everything, no symptoms, and not fever, nothing. The only scary part was day by day. I say, oh, what's going to happen? I feel good now, but they say maybe it's going to kick him up 2 days later, 3 later, or maybe the last week is going to get worse, they say. But that's only in my mind what's going to happen next. I think that's the more the fear. But other than that, my body was good. Thank God, feeling good. I feel great, and only had to wait a couple more days to take a test, and hopefully they give me the okay and go back to New York with my family.
That's great. And Javier Castellano, you're familiar with his career, over 5,000 wins. Basically, you were a kid when you started riding in your home country, Venezuela, weren't you, before you came to Florida in 2001? I mean, you had to be a teenager.
Yeah. Oh, actually, 18. I was 18-year-old when I started in Venezuela. I came to this country when I was 19 in 1997, and I started riding cold the racetrack, and that's was my first step. And then I remember rowing Hialeah the last year, Hialeah Park, and then when Ghost Street, Hialeah, and Goldie, that's what all the three racetracks here in Florida. I rode for 3 years here, and then I moved gone to New York in 2001, and that was in January. And when everybody came here to the winter in Ghost Street, I decided to go over there because it was tough calling. It was Sherry Bailey, Pat Day, Maya Smith, Chancellor, and a lot of good jockeys. He was around, and John Velasquez, and I couldn't keep up with those guys and decided to go to Aqueduct Restaurant in 2001.
I mean, for a kid, that's jumping in the deep waters. When you go to New York anytime, when you're young, you know that, especially like you say, that powerhouse jockey colony they had up there at that time. Did any of these guys, was it really, I know it's going to be competitive, but did you get any good advice from any of these guys, Javier?
Well, we did. Basically by then it was tough because they all competitive and they don't want to talk it too much. Everybody in the song, everybody having own mentality, and nobody can try to help each other. Everybody try to, make it your own name yourself. And a couple of times, one guy, he reached out to me, was Sean Velasquez, always give me a few advices, and that's what I appreciate about that. And even Maya Smith, was a good jockey, he always, if I did something wrong in the race, always try to correct me what the best thing to do with those situations. All the time, everybody's in their own, everybody was competitive, tough game.
And then I guess the breakthrough was Ghost Zapper. I mean, you had wins, but then you win the 04 Breeders' Classic. You've gone on to win 8, 9 more of those. But you win with Ghost Zapper. I guess that was kind of like the one that really, wow, look at this Castellano guy.
Absolutely. I think Ghost Zapper in 2004, that was the Breeders' Cup Classic in Lone Star, Texas. And that's what he put me in the next level, There you go. This is Javier Castellano. and people now start recognize me, and I win a lot of state races in Aqueduct. Me, I win the leading jockey Aqueduct, but when you step up on that level, the Breeders' Cup and win my first Breeders' Cup class, I was amazing because I say, wow, I think that's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to do, and I think I get it now. I have to work it to maintain my level, and after that, the following year, it came out Bernardini, and he won the premium. Unfortunately, everybody know when Barbaro got hurt.
Right.
That was then Bernardini. He won all the races. The Travel. He won the Jockey Club and finished second the Breeders' Cup Classic the following year behind the Invasor. That was those memories I had. Then come out Bellamy Roll, or a row in the Kentucky Derby. He won the Wood Memorial by 17 lengths in front, almost track record. And I mean, very lucky those couple of years start picking up my business, start moving to another direction, another level. And that's what.
Well, and you're doing better. You're feeling better. You're going to be out of self-quarantine soon. And as far as the Kentucky Derby and everything else, it's seems so far away. Who knows what's going to happen with what horses anybody's going to be able to pick up, or what horses are going to be around to pick up the way the whole schedule's been rearranged, Javi. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, right, Kenny. Now we all the situation, everything is moving around. We don't know. We don't know when we can start riding horses again. It could be a couple of weeks, could be 1 month, it could be 2 months. We don't know. But everything start back up a little bit. But the good thing about mentally, I'm trying to be prepared and try to work hard and try to hopefully find the right horses. Hopefully, it could be this year, 2020, to win the Kentucky Derby.
I know that's on the bucket list for you, and I'm glad that you're still feeling strong, and you're doing great with this, and we wish you continued success and get out of that self-quarantine, and we look forward to catching up in person soon, Javier.
Thank you, Kenny. I appreciate it. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for everyone for giving me the opportunity.
All right. All the best wishes. See you soon. Thank you again.
Thanks a lot. You're welcome.
Hall of Fame jockey Javier Castellano, one of the really great guys out there, 4-time Eclipse Award-winning jockey. Hey, if you're interested in the thoroughbred business, you want to get in and buy a horse, check no further than West Point Thoroughbreds. It's westpointtb.com, or call them at 518-583-6638. It's the most affordable, smart, and fun way to get into the business is with syndication. And you want to do it, especially if you're just getting into this, or you've been in before and maybe you didn't enjoy it, you had a bad time. You want to get back in with someone that has a proven track record, like Terry Finley, a retired U.S. Army captain, U.S. military grad. That's why it is West Point Thoroughbreds. So check with them again at westpointtb.com, 518-583-6638. Let's go way back to 2003 when we returned with Jack Knowlton. He was a guy that owned Funny Cide, and he has a great horse right now in Tis the Law, the top 3-year-old in the country. But where's he going next? Big questions, hopefully a few answers, or at least some fun talking about it, coming up on the Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for tuning in this week, be it on radio, iHeart, Stitcher, or YouTube. We're coming from remote locations all over the place today, of course, with the coronavirus. It's affected everybody in some walk of life, and probably horse racing as much as anything else. Imagine if you had the best 3-year-old right now, and the Derby is just weeks away, how excited you would be. But the biggest word in sport is always if. If that were the case, then Jack Knowlton would certainly be on cloud 9. He may already be. He is with Saratoga Stable, of course, of Funny Cide fame, and he has the best 3-year-old in the country right now, Tis the Law, coming off that win in the Florida Derby. Jack, good to catch up with you.
Well, thank you. Great to be on with you, Kenny.
as I said, if's the biggest word in sports. If. In a perfect world, everything would be lining up for a great run at the Kentucky Derby. I guess you're like everyone else, just enjoying the Florida Derby and that great performance of Tiz the Law for the moment.
Absolutely. A little frustrated, obviously, with the Derby now being moved 4 months. But, in the world that we live in, that's just a minor consideration, really. We're just hoping that, we can get through, all of this and as many people as possible keep safe. And hopefully, go back to my hometown in Saratoga and we'll have our usual Saratoga meet and get prepped up for the new Derby date.
Yeah, I guess right now you're like everybody else, that if you're out traveling about, you're kind of, sequestered in Florida, aren't you? In Hallandale, that area?
I am. My condo is about a mile as the crow flies from Gulfstream, and obviously, neither I nor anybody else could be at the track to watch them have that win. But fortunately, I was able to, watch it on television and FaceTimed with my son out in California, and my wife and grandson were here, and one of our partners. So we enjoyed it, and I spent most of the night, responding to all the well wishers.
Yeah, and the thing is, it wasn't like you could walk out on your balcony and hear the roar of the crowd either. Right? That had to be very strange in many ways to be watching on TV just a mile away, Jack.
Well, it really was, and we have 32 people that have some interest in Tiz, and we were all ready to have a big party down here. We did that with a Holy Bull, and we were prepared for about 80 or 90 people. We'd already reserved 3 suites at Gulfstream, ordered the food, all of that, and of course, then the world turned upside down. But fortunately, we're here, we're safe, the weather's nice, and I've been talking with Barkley. There's really a blank slate going forward. We don't know where or when the next race could be. We would hope that maybe the Wood is going to come back at some point at Belmont. We don't know when the Preakness is going to be. If that's going to be after the Derby, as it usually is, that would be another consideration. But our real hope is to do a Midsummer Derby, Kentucky Derby double, and hopefully we'll be able to do that, and I will be able to change the dates on the Travers, and we'll be able to try that.
And we're talking with Jack Knowlton of Saratoga Stable. If you've been up in the beautiful area around Saratoga, the Sackett's Harbor in Saratoga, therefore the name Saratoga. I believe I got that right, Jack.
Absolutely.
Yeah, beautiful country up there, and of course with Funny Cide. One of the great stories in all of horse racing history in 2003, and now with Tiz the Law. And Jack, as you mentioned, you're talking with Barkley Tagg, your trainer. It's a clean slate for everyone. I guess no one actually can say what the next step is, because first off, you got to see where you can step to, what's going to be open and what isn't going to be open.
Absolutely. I mean, right now, the only major race that seems to have a date is the Arkansas Derby. They moved that to the first Saturday in May. I mean, that, is not a race that we'd be interested in. We want to stay on the East Coast and, hopefully work our way up to Saratoga and then ultimately, back down to Louisville the first Saturday in September.
Yeah, I heard that Barkley was talking about if they tried to do the Triple Crown in order, as it's not etched in stone. It's just been this way for several decades. It wasn't always Derby, Preakness, Belmont, but it has in the lifetime of most everyone. That it would be too close to the Breeders' Cup to try to end the Belmont, a 1.5 mile test, the first week of October or second week, and then come to Keeneland if all goes well for the 6th and 7th of November.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I look at it. That I'm afraid that the Belmont would be kind of the odd race out. Certainly for any 3-year-olds that had aspirations to run in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, the only time that the horse I think would really be committed to it is obviously if they were running for a Triple Crown and that was the last race as it typically is. But, Naira's got a tough chore ahead of itself trying to figure out how it's going to work these different races in, between Belmont and Saratoga, and the timing. certainly we would be terribly disappointed if they didn't move the Travers back 4 or 5 weeks before the Kentucky Derby.
With Tis the Law, a little different coming along than Funny Cide. It probably not to you guys. It was such a fun time in 2003. But now flash forward to Tis the Law and the way he was running last year and coming into this year. There was a lot of Derby fever excitement, not just at Saratoga Stable and you all, Jack, but throughout that it had a chance to see Tis the Law run.
Well, it's very different in that, Funny Cide, when he was 2 years old, he ran against New York Reds. He won all 3 races, but that doesn't give any horse a lot of credibility typically. Then he didn't win, any of the 3 prep races before the Derby. He ran well. He had the outside post, 13 posts in the Holy Bull and ended up 5th. Then he ran 3rd in the Louisiana Derby, beaten by Peace Rules, and got moved up to 2nd after there was a drug positive. And then he had a good battle with Empire Maker in the Wood Memorial. So by the time he got to the Derby, everybody pretty much had Empire Maker picked to not only win the Derby, but the Triple Crown. And there were some horses from California that were, getting a lot of play. So he came in under the radar screen and went off at 12-1, paid $27. Very different with Tis the Law. I mean, he broke his maiden against New York Reds, and then Barkley and I, really had a very difficult time trying to figure out, do we follow the Funny Cide path, go with the New York bred races, or do we try and step up and go to the Champagnes? And ultimately, we got very fortunate. We made the decision to try the Champagne, and Tiz, really impressed us, and I think everybody else with that. And we just, had a race that I kind of draw a line through at Churchill. He got a tough trip. The track was really sloppy that day. He was on the worst part of the track the whole race. Never could get out to make his run. But then 8 weeks later, came back in the Holy Bull, and then 8 weeks later, came back in the Florida Derby. So a couple of things we know. Obviously, at this point, he can go around 2 turns. Distance doesn't seem to be any limitation. And secondly, twice now he's won off 8-week layoffs. So given the situation that we're in right now, I think that's a real benefit.
Oh, that's a great point. You talk about layoffs because who knows when the next, we know about, as we mentioned, the Arkansas Derby. You guys aren't even thinking about that. But who knows when the next opportunity for a 3-year-old will be. So it's good to know how well he does off layoffs like this.
Well, Barkley, as everybody knows, an old-time trainer, and he just does a fabulous job. He's got a wonderful assistant in Robin Smullen, and they do whatever's necessary to have the horse ready to run at the right time.
Well, certainly it's been that way with Tis the Law, the top 3-year-old in the country right now, like everyone else, Jack Knowlton and Saratoga Stable and trainer Barkley Tagg, waiting to see what is next. Going to take a quick break. We'll have more with Jack in just a moment and reminisce a little more about one of the great stories, I think, in horse racing history, Funny Cide 2003. Stay with us. You're listening to The Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. We're proud that we've been downloaded in 22 countries, heard around the country each week on iHeart, Stitcher, and YouTube. I'm Kenny Rice. Glad that you're with us. Really good to catch up with this guy, Jack Knowlton of Saratoga Stable. They have the best 3-year-old in the country right now, Tis the Law, coming off the Florida Derby win. And Jack, I guess you probably don't go a day without somebody asking you about 2003 and that fun, exciting, wild ride with Funny Cide to win the Derby and the Preakness.
No, that's true. An awful lot of people, recognize me as being associated with Funny Cide. They may not know my name, but they know that, I was the guy that was involved in Funny Cide, and everybody wants to know, how's he doing? Where is he? And, he is in, I think, the greatest place that a horse can retire to, and that's Kentucky Horse Park. He's in the Hall of Champions there, and I get to see him every year when I get down to Derby, and it's just a fabulous place. For a number of years, we were able to, bring him up to Saratoga. He'd usually catch a ride with, a plane that was stopping down in Louisville and bringing horses up to Saratoga. But now he's, believe it or not, 20 years old this year. and just looks great. He's a fan favorite down there, and we're just so proud to have him there and let people be able to really interact with a Kentucky Derby champion.
I remember when you guys came in to the Kentucky Derby in '03, and you got a New York bred. You've got a gelding, and I think it'd been like 1929. Clyde Van Dusen was the last gelding to win a Derby. So you had that. And, Barclay Tagg, well-known and well-respected, but not considered a Derby training guy. And then a bunch of basically like high school or longtime friend buddies up around Saratoga, New York, come in with this horse. I mean, it's a movie, Jack. You couldn't have made the whole story up and had the result that it had.
Well, we did get a book, but we didn't get the movie. But who knows?
You should get a movie.
Maybe someday that'll happen. But we just had a lot of fun. I mean, we got started, 5 high school friends and I on a Memorial Day weekend. I was up in Sackett's Harbor. We had a barbecue. We were drinking beer, and somebody got the idea, well, why don't we buy a thoroughbred? Now, a couple of those guys had been coming down to Saratoga and going to the races. I had just gotten out of the harness business. That we had a small stable in Saratoga, and after about 12 years, I got out, and somebody said, well, let's buy a thoroughbred. So I said, I know a guy that is a trainer, and I'm sure he could get us a horse. So I said, let's put in $5,000 a piece, and then I'll talk to this guy. Well, I went home and figured, I'm never going to hear anything from these guys. So about a week later, one of them calls up and says, we've talked about it, and we've decided we're going to do it. So it was an interesting ride, because one of the guys was a school teacher. He didn't dare tell his wife. Another guy said, well, I'd be better off burying that $5,000 in a tin can in my backyard, but he put his money in. And we bought a New York bred, Timmy Kelly, who now works for Naira. He was a trainer, and he bought us a horse, and we named him Sackett 6, and we had our colors in maroon and gray with our high school colors. So we, got our silks made out of that. Got the Sackatoga name out of Sackett's Harbor and Saratoga, as you mentioned. And, 8 horses later, we win the Kentucky Derby in the Preakness. Our goal had always been to have a horse that could run at Saratoga. And it turned out that we won the Derby and the Preakness before we ever won a race at Saratoga. So that's how crazy this game can be.
And you inspired many to try it. You don't know how many high school buddies, friends, college roommates, whatever, to say, hey, look, look up there. Those Saratoga guys, they did it. I know we can do it too.
We've had an awful lot of people through the years that have called, and, we've, told them kind of, how to do it, what to do, what not to do. And, thank goodness we have the syndicates or partnerships, however you want to name them today, because I know so many people that have so much fun, without having to spend a lot of money. I mean, a few $1,000s, you can, have a piece of a horse, and it's your horse. I mean, it doesn't matter if you got 1%, 2%, 3%. It's your horse. You're going to the races. You're cheering. You're betting on them. So it's great for the game. It really is.
How much did you guys put into Funny Cide?
We bought him for $75,000 as a 2-year-old in training. Tony Everhart down in Ocala, Florida. Barkley on his way down to Florida in December. Saw this horse that Tony bought for $22,000 at the New York bred Kazakh Tipton sale in August. We actually bought a horse at that sale, not that one. And, sometimes getting a second chance in life is the best thing. So Barkley saw this horse in December, and Tony said, this is a nice New York bred. I know your guys like New York breds. You might want to think about that. So $50,000. And Barkley told me, we didn't have $50,000. So then Barkley went up again and saw Tony in January, and Tony said, this horse is really looking good. Now I'm up to $60,000, and we still didn't have it. Well, then in February, we had a mare that was running in a $62,500 claimer that we had bought a year and a half earlier from one of Barkley's owners. And she ended up getting claimed, ran second in that race. All of a sudden, we had money $75,000 was the price, and we're off to the races. And nobody knew because, and this is the parallel with Tiz, distorted humor. First crop sire, never had a horse on a racetrack yet, and we know what kind of sire he turned out to be. Well, same thing here. Constitution, first crop sire, and here we are with Tiz.
Wow, it's great stuff, Jack. And I especially remember going with the school bus. You guys brought the school bus to the race.
Well, the story with that, one of my partners, who unfortunately passed away a few years ago, Dave Mann, who owned a catering business in Connecticut. Dave was kind of the logistics guy. So once we knew we were going to be at the golf house, I said to Dave, we had 53 people that went to that derby with us. And I said, we need some way to get there. So Dave talked to whoever at the hotel, and he said, oh, yeah, we can get your bus for $3,600. I mean, it's about 3 miles back and forth to the track. I mean, we know everything's expensive derby time at Louisville. We thought that was a little high. So I said to Dave, are there any other options? And so he went back to the guy and said, yeah. He says, how much pride have you got? And of course, Dave said, well, not much. He says, let me check this. I can get your school bus for $1,300. So that's how we got the school bus. Then, of course, our entourage grew after we won the Derby. 2 school buses for the Preakness, 4 for the ill-fated Belmont.
Oh,
the school bus will be back out, and there may need 2 for the Derby this time. But everybody asks, you're going to be going in the school bus and say, yeah, we're saving that for the Derby. And but what's really interesting is you don't know how many people over the years thought that we went all the way from Sackett's Harbor and Saratoga in that school bus. It's just incredible.
Oh, it's an incredible story with Funny Cide, and what a horse you have right now in Tiz the Law. And best wishes. I hope everything holds up, and you are on that school bus with everybody the first Saturday in September now.
That sounds strange to hear that, doesn't it?
It really does. And Jack, like I said, talking to other owners and trainers and, just casual conversation, this is truly a blank slate, and I don't know if there's nobody has a right or wrong way from this point on to try to get ready for the Derby that far out.
No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Again, in a perfect world, as you said earlier, our excitement would be building, and I think that Barkley's got him in a great space, but. Barkley feels this horse is a pretty unique horse that nothing really seems to faze him. Distance doesn't seem to be an issue. So, we'll just go with the flow. And, the next time he sets foot on the track, I know he'll be ready to run.
Jack, it's great to catch up with you, and I look forward to seeing you in person. And I've only seen him on tape, so I look forward to seeing Tiz the Law run in person as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Always great to be talking. Take care now.
All right, Jack Knowlton of Saratoga Stable, owner of Tiz the Law. More coming up here on the Horse Racing Show. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. Thank you for tuning in this week. Thanks especially to our guest, Jack Knowlton, the owner of Tiz the Law, and Javier Castellano, Hall of Fame jockey, how he's dealing with coronavirus. And, guys, very interesting in that. As he said, he was running 3 miles. He felt great. Only because when he went to Florida, Gulfstream Park had him take the test, as they did all the jockeys, that he found out he had it. He had no symptoms. And that's why everyone needs to try to stay as safe as possible. And hopefully everyone is. We're social distancing here today on the Horse Racing Show. Scott Hall, Ben Chaffins, Mr. Thomas Kenny, thank you all very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thank you, Kenny.
It's
a great show.
It feels like you're just right here with me.
We are.
Wait a minute. We are. That's the thing that's really been interesting. You find out all the things you can do from miles apart. Well, anyway, we hope you and yours are safe. Again, thanks to Javier Castellano and Jack Knowlton. Thanks to the great crew here for making all this happen. And stay isolated as much as possible. Stay safe, and be sure to look in on your friends and loved ones, and take care, everyone. And next week, we'll talk again. Maybe we'll figure out that road to the Kentucky Derby. Probably not, but we'll give it a shot right here on the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Take care. Talk next week.
1.